The Blazers have won 2 out of 3. The defense is buzzing. The shooting has improved. Could this team make a run at the... Okay, never mind. We're not going to go that crazy on the Blazer Focus podcast and talk about playoffs, but they are playing better. It's good to see. I am Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian and Oregon Live, joined by Craig Birnbach. Craig, man, it's been a minute. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good, had family, did it at my house, didn't have to travel.
Nice.
It's good.
Did you cook? Did you make a cookie? Did you make a turkey? Did you carve it up?
I carved it a little, I don't know if I cut it up. I made slices of stuff. But my wife and my brother came in, are better cooks, and told me to my baked ziti that I wanted to add to the mix was rejected.
Your big ziti?
I grew up with an Italian uncle. Okay. And that's part of Thanksgiving is like a lasagna or something like that. But my wife thought that was crazy talk. And so
that's messed up, man.
And I wanted to do mashed potatoes, my specialty, but my brother said, "No, I got it." So
you got shoved out your own kitchen.
Yeah, but it was fine. I don't care. Like, I got to eat everything, So we had guest dogs, meaning we had 2 guest dogs to combine with my dog. So that's kind of a nightmare if anyone's done that. Like, that's not a good time.
Yeah,
so
you don't want to be mixing the dogs.
I was a dog wrangler. The 6-year-old and the dogs is my gig. How about you? Did you have a good one?
The dog wrangler. Yeah, we went to the in-laws, hung out, watched some sports, watched football all day and ate. Traditional Thanksgiving, nothing unusual. So yeah, it was typical and fun and cool, and ate a lot. And now we had pecan pie and pumpkin pie. Which one do you like the best?
I
had a slice of both with ice cream with each. You don't like either one of them?
I'm not. I lived in the South for almost over a decade, so pecan pie was a big deal. No, man, I like. Give me a real fruit. Pumpkin's not a real fruit.
Apple pie,
apple, cherry.
Apple's my favorite. I don't do cherry. I like pumpkin. I like pecan.
I got chocolate cream,
not pecan.
Chocolate cream we added to the mix this year, which is good.
That's nice.
Because it's chocolate. You could put chocolate on dirt. And I'd be like, that's good dirt. That's good dirt.
Absolutely. Speaking of good dirt, how about those Blazers
playing better?
Who lost 8 in a row and were playing like dirt. And then they've been pretty sweet lately, winning 2 out of 3. Should have beat the Bucks. The fact that they played well at the Bucks for one half. And then won at the Pacers, slowing down their amazing offense led by Tyrese Halliburton. Nice little run for them. I'm not going to lie. Good to see because they were looking really, really bad. They got Brogdon back. The defense is ranked 15th. That was one of my 5 miracles that had to happen for them to make the playoffs. One of them was be decent on defense, and they are decent on defense. There's no doubt about that. So what do you make of this little hot run by the Blazers?
So the problem with your defense thing is you didn't think they'd be last in scoring, right? So that's the problem.
Ant's been out. So Ant's been out. Go ahead.
But that's been the issue is that the offense is not what we thought. For obvious reasons, there was injuries, but they are dead last. 104 points a game. I predicted tons of alley-oop dunks and all that. That's not happening. They're not going super fast.
Ant's been out.
Right.
Scoot
but it might be different
out.
than we thought. And Scoot's he's been not great and bad. Like he's back. He's up to not great, but he was bad.
Right. So, but he was out then. He was out. So the pace went down while he was out, and you lost shooting with Ant. So I'm just trying to give them some excuses. But anyway, continue.
Look, they have competed. And some of that, yes. I'm gonna take the pessimist role. We know that teams are going to come in and not give their A game in the first couple quarters sometimes, right? They look at the record, they look at the roster, and they think, well, this is, we'll be fine. And then they wait to turn it on. The Bucks did 26-point deficit, came back, got the win. But last night, Pacers tried, and this time the Blazers held them off. And I think that's a great bounce back. And this is what happens when you add NBA players back into your mix. You know what I mean? Because they're better.
Right.
Brogdon's an NBA basketball player. He's back in. He's their go-to guy in the clutch. They're going to Brogdon, right? And he's coming through. And Grant's been great. I mean, he talked about not being comfortable stepping up. Well, if you scored 34 points, you've stepped up. So I think that when you and Ayton was good. He was good, right? So you had 3 NBA players play real well. So that part's been good. Chauncey's it's not the most exciting brand of basketball right now, but he's kept them competitive. They're not that good. They're not going to win a ton of games. So that's the good part. The bad part for me is it's Brogdon and it's Grant. And we know that, right? Like Sharp's been, his shooting is not.
He's a kid. He's a kid still.
Right. And, every game he still gives us something, right? He still gives us something. He tries to dunk on everybody, which I love. And he's athletic.
He just doesn't care.
And he shouldn't, because he's going to dunk on everybody at some point. And why not? And, his turnovers have been up and down, but his shooting is not good right now. It's just it's not consistent, and we need to see that go. And, Scoot came back and he's played better and in control, but he hasn't shown us what we want to see, that lightning speed. His assist to turnover ratio, he's got as many assists as turnovers. That is not a productive NBA basketball player, especially at the point guard position. So he's going to have to get better, but he's been better since he came back. And clearly they're not depending on him in the same way. They're going to Brogdon. So I think that Billups should feel good about the fact that he's understanding his roster and how best to compete. And what I'm interested in seeing going forward is how do you decide how to play Brogdon and Grant and run plays through them to get victories and still elevate Sharp and Scoot to where they're an intricate part of the team, or are they not ready yet? I mean, Sharp's is definitely a little shown he can be. Can we get Scoot there? But again, he's played not even a dozen games.
Right. Okay. So first things first, their defense is pretty solid. Like they get after it. They try hard. They work hard. Against some teams, they're just going to be overwhelmed because they just don't, you're just dealing with really good teams who are just going to be able to score. So that's why they're 15th and not 10th or whatever. And the offense, as you point out, has not been good. But the positive sign since Brogdon has been back is that the shooting has gotten a lot better, especially on threes. So in the last 4 games, they're shooting 44% on threes, 46% overall, while scoring 111, which I think you said they were last at 104.
They're averaging 104. So, I mean,
104, right. So the last 4 games, they've improved. And there's no doubt that's with Brogdon coming back and starting and not starting Scoot. Now, Billups said when Scoot came back that Scoot was going to be on a minutes restriction, which he very well might be. I also believe that he's not starting because he shouldn't be starting. Because they're so much better with Brogdon because, like you said, Brogdon's an NBA player and Scoot is not yet. And so, coincidentally, Scoot is actually playing better in the minutes he's playing in because he's not being asked to go out there and start. He's coming in off the bench in spots, shorter bursts, and he's able to give you something productive. His three-point shooting has gotten really good. I think it's 5 for 8 since he's come back or something like that on threes. So they're a way better basketball team constructed like that with Brogdon starting and Scoot coming off the bench. Now, Shaedon has fallen off big time. He was on a nice run there, but his last 8 games, dude, 32% shooting, 24% on threes. So he's still giving you 15 points a game or whatever, 5 assists, 13 points a game. But he efficiency wise, just not even where he needs.
Right,
to
his
be
turnovers are like 4 a game.
Yeah, he's just still a kid, and that's fine. So having when Anthony comes back, maybe in the next week, the best move if you want to win is to start Brogdon and Ant. Maybe you keep Kamara at the 3, and then you just bring Shaedon off the bench at the 2 and the 3 as a scoring punch, thus taking pressure off of him as you did Scoot. And I think those two will be way better in the second unit. Now, people get caught up in the whole developing thing. There's no law that's ever been written or nothing that's ever, or a blueprint that's ever said that you can't develop coming off the bench. It's just crazy to me that people are like, he has to develop, so throw him out there for 35 minutes and have him be crap. Why? Have him play 25 minutes off the bench and be better and learn from watching the other guys. You can still develop that way. Kobe did it. I always come back to that. Whenever people say, you should do it. No, Kobe played 15 minutes a game as a rookie. Then he played 26 minutes a game. Then he became a full-time starter. So let these kids grow slowly off the bench if you want to win. That's what I think is going to happen, because I do think that they're trying to build a culture, and part of building a culture is not doing things that you know are going to cause you to not win, especially when you have veterans on this team who are going to look at you and go, why are you starting Scoot over Malcolm? Or why are you still starting Sharp when he can't shoot when Ant comes back? So I think that's what they're going to do, but we'll see.
So I would disagree in who I would start. I don't disagree with your blueprint. What I try to remind people is that Kobe was the 13th overall draft pick. You know what I mean? Like he came straight out of high school, but it was a different time in the NBA where he got traded, and now Kobe, with what he did at the high school level, and if he was draft eligible, he would not go 13 because they're looking for younger talent, and the impact is faster. I would start.
Doesn't make it right. You're just telling me that it's stupid now.
It was, but guys sat on the bench without playing longer back then. Right. If he was super young.
I know, but my point is they still developed.
Yes.
Okay, so you can develop playing 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You don't have to start and spit up all over yourself for 35 minutes a game to develop.
That's and the Lakers are trying to win when they got him, you know.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
I just say, you love to say Kobe. It's like
commence.
So I would split up the youngsters. And you got to start Simons. So in my opinion, I'd start Simons and Sharp because that makes more sense to me. Sharp's playing better. He's more advanced, and his natural position is the 2. And Simons, to me, is your best lead guard. And then I would bring Brogdon and Scoot off the bench because I want to keep Kamara in there because he's been great. And you're right. The reason why they're winning games is defense. And Kamara, he chasing people 90 feet, he picking them up, and that's causing problems. So I wouldn't want to sit Kamara down, and I wouldn't want to put Sharp at the 3 because I think he's a 2. So, but I'm not mad at you if you do it the other way. What you're saying makes sense. You have a much better chance to win. I just don't know if Scoot and Sharp playing a lot of minutes together is helpful to not just the overall development of them, which I don't, but if you are trying to win and they're playing together, that might not be great. So I would like to keep and again, I think that Brogdon's going to play, 28 minutes. You don't want Brogdon to get hurt, and he can't, his body's not, he doesn't take a lot of minutes, right? I don't want to play him 35 minutes.
But you can start him and not play him 30 minutes.
Right. And that,
no
again, I would just do it
minutes.
differently, and we'll see what they do. I would like to split them up. I'd like to get a vet with, teamed up on both quote-unquote teams. Start Simons and Sharp together. Those positions line up. Brogdon is a guard, and he's not like Simons as far as just there's a reason why he was 6th man of the year. He's a really good player. He's not the shooter that Simons is, and Simons is better. So, but I think Scoot could play the 2 and Brogdon. Scoot could play the 1 and Brogdon could play the 2, and to me, that's a better pairing. I haven't seen it much, so I can't really back it up, right? Because but just in my head and watching them. But look, if you want to win basketball games, if that's your primary goal, your lineup's better than mine. And you can still do the things that you're saying. So I'm not here slamming you are crazy and you're wrong a lot, but I'm not saying you're
whoa. Okay. That's slander. And I will get my attorneys on you. Wrong a lot, wrong every once in a while, son. Maybe. Anyway,
I'm just saying, like, I would do it differently, but I'm not going to sit here and say that you're crazy for coming up with that. I am interested to see what Billups does, because that's what this whole season's about, is like this whole chemistry of how do you put the parts together and for what purpose?
Well, here's my trump card. I was saving the ace of spades. Okay, so they came into the season. We're going to start Scoot because he's the third pick, and I think they felt like they needed to start him, right? Scoot getting hurt took them off the hook for that, because it was obvious he was the fourth best point guard on the team. It was extremely telling when Brogdon went down and Skylar Mays went in there and played way better than Scoot Henderson had been playing. Yep. So the G League guy who was on a two-way deal was clearly better than your number 3 pick. Now that guy's disappeared from the rotation.
Doesn't play. My guy don't play. I bought the jersey for nothing.
Right, exactly. He just disappears from the rotation because Scoot is Scoot. To me, you keep it as it is. Scoot shouldn't be starting until he's ready to start because it just wasn't good. And so let him grow slowly. That's what he needs. That's what I predicted he needs. And yes, I'm going to talk. I'm not going to talk about it because I took a lot of heat, but that's okay. The main thing I think that's going to play out here is that Malcolm Brogdon is not a part of this team's future.
Yes.
They need to try and get as much as they can from him. And you can get more out of him if you let him continue to play at a high level in the starting lineup with your starters, doing the things that he does, so that other teams out there who think, oh, I need a point guard, or oh, maybe I need a backup guard in general, are going to be able to see this body of work. And so that's why I'm keeping Brogdon out there, because I'm showcasing him. And 2, Ant, you've already basically stated that Ant is a 2. And so to have him starting at the 1 with Sharp, who's extremely struggling, doesn't make much sense to me. I think you want to keep Ant at the 2 because that was your overall goal. He's still going to do some 1. But in that regard, the best backcourt then is Brogdon and Ant. So you can showcase Brogdon and can play where you think he's best at the 2. And you still got Scoot and Shaden come off the bench and getting their minutes. I do see what you're saying with having them play together, but they'd be playing together against other teams' 2s. And you can still do things where you sort of mix and match how the lineups look, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing's in stone necessarily. But anyway, for me, the most important thing they can do in the next 2 months, because the trade deadline is into February, right? So 2.5 months, is get what you can out of Brogdon. And to do that, the best way is to let that guy start and play and do what he's been doing. Because you're going to get a first-round pick out of him if he continues to play the way he's been playing.
So my thing is, the more you play him, the more risk you have from him getting hurt, in a way. And
I guess.
I think the league knows. I don't think the league knows. He's 6th man of the year. He's not a rookie. I don't think you have playing him an extra 8 minutes is going to matter, and starting or not starting, because they already know what they got, and they'll understand if he comes off the bench, and they're not going to think his skills are going to diminish in this short period of time. So I think you're going to get what you're going to get from Brogdon as long as he stays healthy. I mean, obviously, you see what happened with Williams. Like, you don't want that. So I'm not worried about that. We still don't know what Simon's future is. And Simon's a lead guard. I mean, you say you think he's a 2. I think he's a lead guard. Well, they're wrong. He's a lead guard. He's a dominant scoring guard who can handle. And in this league, there are no more point guards, but he's not 6'6", and he's never going to guard. So I think if you were to trade, look, I don't see a world where Simons and Scoot are the long-term future of the Blazers. We've talked about this over and over again. CJ and Dame, they tried. Best case scenario, they're as good as that. And they're not bigger. Or much bigger. So I don't know. I think Simons, if you trade him, is going to be a lead guard, and him playing outstanding in that lead guard position might get you 2 first-round picks. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, but I'm not going to go into semantics. Whatever. We'll see what Billups does. The minutes are going to be there for all 4 of these players, unless Scoot really can't play. And then eventually he'll play less. But, that's worst case scenario. Brogdon's going to play 25 to 35 minutes a game. Sharp's going to play. I mean, right now Sharp's playing 36 minutes a game. Like, that's too many. And that's because all the injuries and Simons was out. But when Simons gets back and he'll be on a minutes restriction probably in the beginning, but he does play 36 minutes a game. So, but the positionless NBA allows you to do other stuff with other players. And Kamara, I mean, he's a true 3, but he could play the 4 for a few minutes. You're not trying to win a championship right now. Move it around, figure it out. But we'll see. I mean, it's obviously Billups is having this discussion with his coaching staff, and they're looking forward to Simons coming back, and they might already have the plan, and we'll see what it does, and it might change. We might both be right in the same week. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly, 100%. That's probably almost a given. So let's move on to Jerami, who's just been carrying his squad offensively. I mean, he's a completely different guy than he was in Detroit when he had to do that. He's draining shots. He's draining clutch shots. He's doing what he pretty much did the first month last season when he was just on fire. He's really developing into a legitimate go-to player who, I mean, shoot, man, had they kept Dame and traded for Ayton,
Don't do it.
I'm just saying that would have been a pretty potent 3. But what do you make of him? And like, can you see a situation where they're like, shoot, man, this guy keeps going the way he's going. We need to keep him because he's going to be a part of our future, regardless of the fact he's 29. Or do you think he's just playing his way into a good haul via trade for the Blazers?
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere this year because I don't think that contract. I think you got to get to a place where that contract. It's not terrible, but I don't know how many playoff teams are going to look at him and say, we want him to score 30 a game, right? I mean, that's the one thing about Grant is that this is the first time he's done this, and he's looked great, and it can only help. But if they got rid of Grant right now, oh boy, at some point you need to buy players, and obviously if someone came forward with some kind of amazing deal with a young talent and maybe some more first rounders, but I just don't see him being when he's 31, he won't be doing this, and that's 2 years, right? And that's when you're kind of hoping the 19 and 20-year-olds are starting to take control. So when I talk about long-term future, I just mean like Grant didn't sign this contract because he thought he was going to be on a contending Blazers team. He signed it because it was a lot of money, and he understood that they were going to give him more than anyone else, and that he might not stay the whole time that he, for his whole contract. But I don't think. Do you think it's a possibility they trade him this year?
It depends on if they got the right offer. I mean,
right, of course. But I don't
think people are going to be that afraid of the contract. If you're okay, so I guess it just depends on the team. But okay,
it just takes up a lot of space for multiple years.
But let's take Chicago. Let's say the Bulls said, we'll give you a couple of players that equal his salary and a first-round pick. And we'll take, to me, if the Bulls had Jerami Grant, I think it would change that team. They're not going to be great, but it would just change them. They need someone like him. If you're the Blazers and you don't think he's a part of your future, then you would take those players who probably would have expiring contracts or maybe just 1 or 2 years left on their deal, and you're getting the picks, the first or the second or whatever. So I just think that there could be, I should say, a team out there that's not going to be afraid of 30. I'm talking about $33 million a year. That's chump change right now.
5 years.
4 years after
29.
this one. I know, but he's still going to be in his prime. But he's still going to be in his prime. So I'm just
34?
saying.
You're paying him $32 million.
But at 30, but by the time he's 34 million, I mean, top players in the NBA are going to be making 80. So it's just unfortunately.
I get that. It's just
so all I'm just saying is that it depends on the team. But I mean, people always, I don't know. The Blazers just took Ayton. I mean, Ayton's younger, but they just took Ayton at 34. I mean, I just think there could be someone out there who's going to give you some draft capital, give you some shorter contracts, who's going to say, we need a guy like Jerami Grant in our lineup because that makes us infinitely better. And if we can get him that way, because you're not going to be able to sign him, a guy like him necessarily, if you're over the cap. So the way you get him is by taking lesser players on shorter contracts, throw in a pick, and then you get a guy like that. So I could totally see where a team out there would roll the dice and go for it. And maybe you're right. Maybe it doesn't happen this year. Maybe it happens next summer, or maybe next year's trade deadline. But I just can't imagine that they believe that by the time they're ready to make noise in the West, that Jerami Grant
100% agree with that. I just don't think it's this year. I just think this year they need him to just be.
I mean, maybe it depends on the offer, but you're right. Yeah.
Just to watch, and I don't think you're not going to get a ridiculous. The difference between him being 29 and 30 doesn't change the deal you're going to get, in my opinion. Of course, he could get hurt, and of course, someone could come and say, "Hey," but I mean, I look at obviously. You talk about the Bulls, I talk about the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks have struggled to find a 3, /4 like that we know is consistent. I mean, we've got there's no we. The Knicks have Josh Hart playing the 4. You know what I mean? Like that's not that he's amazing, but that's not ideal. But I don't know if they'd be ready this year to move off all these parts. I just think if the Blazers were to trade him now, you are literally going to be losing.
Okay, so let's
not how you win any games without him.
No, but let's segue into another topic then that I wrote about since we haven't talked since I wrote about it. So they played OKC.
Yep.
Right? OKC rolled up in here with an extremely deep and talented roster led by a true number one, right? And then Chet looks ridiculous.
So good.
Right. So one of the reasons why I asked the question in the summer that I got trashed for about tanking versus trying to win was, and I mentioned it even that day to Cronin, was you got to keep up with teams like Oklahoma City and Houston, which have stacked talent. So to be honest with you, they're not even remotely close to being able to keep up with that unless Aiden, becomes 24 and 12.
They're not becomes close. There's no one less.
Scoop becomes Rose, and or Shea becomes Devin Booker, which he's been compared to. Right? If that happens, then okay, you're stacked, right? But the odds of all that happening not necessarily great. So they need more picks. And so if trading Grant gets me a first round pick and some expiring deals, and I'm going to stink and guarantee I get a top 3 or 4 pick, that's almost what they got to do, because you got to keep pace. Because right now they're going to be left in the dust for many years to come by Houston and OKC based on just sheer talent on the roster and size. The Blazers' best 2 prospects are 6'2" and 6'4". These other cats, they got 6'6", 6'7", 6'9", 6'11". So
7. What's Chet? 7'2"?
7. Yeah. So like if you're anything that can get me into the top 5, anything that can get me into the top 5 and another pick.
Well, you're preaching to the choir, because you know what I've said. Worst thing that can happen to this team is making the play-in or the playoffs. And I'm with you. I'm just saying what the Blazers have shown, that they don't want to win 12 games on the season. You know what I mean? They want to sell some kind of product. But no, if you're trying to get the fastest route to a championship for this team is to get another top 3 pick. Absolutely, no doubt. So I think they could get there by winning 25 games with Grant. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to be good this year. I just don't know if they're willing to have a product where nobody's watching and nobody's going. Because that's what you'll have.
It's already sold.
Yeah, but they stop going and they don't, and no one watches. It's a problem. And they're trying to, and we are not sure what the business angle is of this franchise. We could just guess that they have continually tried to tell people they're not tanking, even when they were, and that they were going to build around someone when they weren't. I mean, they haven't even officially, admitted to a rebuild. It's kind of like,
they kind of have. They
don't. Well, they had to, but you know what I'm saying? Like it took like everything happened.
It took all summer. Yeah.
Like, it took the whole world to be like, come on now, stop. Like, come on now. But I mean, part of that is they took back Brogdon and they're playing him. So what you're saying is kind of counter. If you're going to trade Grant, then don't start Brogdon, because, like you're going to lose more games if you play him less. And I still think he'll get traded. But I'm with you.
That's why you move him. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, I would trade Brogdon. But to me, Brogdon, his contract is different. He's injury prone. No one's going to think I don't think he's a bonus player, while Grant could be the way he's playing now and the way he's getting paid. Grant is he's a jewel on the crown, right? You don't pull in a $160 million contract 5 years because you want him to play 22 games for you. You have to think about the next year and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a different situation. Or it's a team that thinks they're 2 years away, not 4 or 5, like the Blazers. But hey, this is what I like. I like when he's got the ball, I want to see what he wants to do, what he's going to do, which you kind of need, last year and years past in his career, you kind of knew he was going to either shoot the three, try to drive, or he's going to pass it, right? Like he wasn't going to, he's taking people to the hole with ease too. I'm like, ooh, like this is a clutch basket. Oh, he just got a layup, like a layup. Yep. How'd he get there? Like, who'd they think was going to go? Did you think he was going to give it to Kamara? Because he was, he's going against defenses that are focusing on him, and he's beating them, and that's impressive.
Yeah.
And we'll see how long he can stay healthy, which is one thing he's been able to do in his career.
Yeah. So did you get a chance to watch Blazers versus Dame?
Yeah, I actually caught the second half, so I didn't see them dominate. And then
they were fire in the first half. They could miss a three, it seemed like, and then in the second half, not so much.
Third quarter, not great. Fourth quarter, terrible. And I kept on waiting. Now, Dame, he free throwed him to death, which is a Dame thing.
He did.
But he did not hit the three. He had those threes that I was like, oh, that's good. Nope. Oh, that's it. Nope.
He did tie it with a step back, though. He tied it with a step back. That was nice.
But he did. And Giannis is just a beast. It's interesting to watch them because there's a lot of stuff out there that, it's not working and what's going to happen. And they're 12-5. You're like, they're 12-5.
They're 12-5.
They played together 17 games. They're 12-5. They're second in the East. And Boston beat them and they went down big. Obviously, they got to figure it out, but they're 12-5 and they're going to figure it out. And the foul wasn't a foul. That was a good call. Yeah. That was a clean block. And Chauncey said it. They did not. You can't throw up all over yourself. Like you have to have. That's what they did. They threw up all over themselves in the last quarter and down the stretch. And that's what. Look, I'm rooting for Dame. I want him to win. It's like if the Knicks can't win at this point, it used to be if the Knicks can't win, I'd want covering the Blazers. I want them to have success. But man, I would like to see Dame win a championship. So I'm down with that. I don't usually have a rooting interest outside my I root for players. I like watching certain guys. I love watching Giannis just because his game is different. I mean, to me, he was it's like, remember Go Go Gadget, the cartoon? Go Go Gadget arms. The guy's arms just like robotic, just extended. Like we're about the same age. I don't even know, but
I don't think I watched that. Go ahead.
But anyway, that's to me like he gets close to the rim, and all of a sudden his arm goes another 6 inches. You know what I mean? Like to either dunk or lay it in. And I'm just always impressed. Go! I forget what it's called. Go
Gadget. It's not Inspector
Gadget. There you go.
He said Go Gadget.
Well, that was his song. People know if you're like my age and like Go Gadget. They know. But I love watching him play, and I'm interested to see. They're not pick and rolling those two that often, which is just bizarre to me. They know better than I do, but I feel like I know better than they do in this situation. I'm like, hey, why don't you do the pick and roll with those two? It seemed like it'd be magical, but okay, you want to do something else? But yeah, I just felt the Blazers just couldn't execute, and I thought it was going to happen again. And that's what was impressive against the Pacers. They didn't. Brogdon and Grant did not let it happen.
Right. So Damian downplayed having the Blazers come there before the game, saying, it's not that big a deal. It'll be a much bigger deal when I go back to Portland. And in the article I wrote leading up to the game, I pointed out that, it's an interesting situation because the roster has changed so much, right? He's not going against CJ, Nurk, coached by Stotts. The only player on the team he played with multiple years is Anthony, and Anthony wasn't playing. Right. He played 1 year with Grant. Yeah, 1 year with Grant, 1 year with Shaden, 1 year with Jabari, and then a half a season with Matisse that I can remember off the top of my head, right? That's it. So, and he pointed that out too. It's like the roster is different. That just shows how much the roster has changed in the last 2 years, let alone 1 year. But Brennan and I on the Oregonian podcast talked about this topic because she thinks that because I mentioned how the reception for CJ was just amazing when CJ came back. And I would think the reception for Dame would be greater. She argues, though, that she doesn't think so. She thinks there might be some sourness against Dame because of how things went down, which I disagree with. I think most fans get it. Even the whole picking one team thing and the power struggle they had. I just can't imagine. I mean, if Blazer fans let that whole thing cause them to be sour on Damian at all, I would just be floored and disappointed. So anyway, what do you think? Bigger reception than CJ? Of course, it's a couple months out, but bigger reception, same reception, or less?
I can't imagine not being bigger. I mean, he's bigger. CJ's jersey's not going to be retired. Damian's will.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I don't know how they retire numbers of the Blazers.
They retire a lot of jerseys in this place, but we'll see.
But not like recently, like as far as players that it's all off of like two teams, so I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. Dame is definitely he's the all-time leading scorer. Like he was everything. He was perfect for 10 years. You know what I mean? Like that's not, if you're going to let the last month where he had every right to be ticked sour you, then that's weird. And I think when the arena's filled with people that know, not the ones on the message boards.
Good point.
I mean, there's some of them there, but the ones that are sour on him, they're not the ones that are there.
The Twitter nuts don't have.
And even if you're a little
tickets.
sour, you still got to give back. You know what I mean? Like I could be mad at someone for breaking up with me, but that doesn't mean they're the worst person in the world. Right. I have to show respect for what they did, while we're in a relationship. And Dame never didn't give it his all. And, to think that he did anything wrong that was so egregious that you wouldn't stand up and thank him, I don't think Blazer fans are like that.
I'd be floored. And I made this point, too, that if there were people who are upset because he forced his way out and what happened to the loyalty and blah, 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 to me, the fact that Scoot has gotten off to such a bad start is just absolutely the cherry on top to show what Dame believed about the situation. He didn't believe that Scoot Henderson was going to do a damn thing for him and trying to win. There are some people who did. There are some people who thought, oh, man, Scoot's going to be amazing. You come play with him. We're going to be amazing. Why are you doing this? Well, I think you're seeing that Scoot's not even remotely close to being capable of helping Damian elevate the franchise and contend, which is one of the reasons why Dame wanted out immediately after the draft. So I would hope, I see you frowning, but my point is that was a lot of the mentality that was out there over the summer, that they're drafting a generational transcendent talent who's going to come in and be amazing, and that he and Dame are going to start together and be amazing. And Dame was like, yeah, no, that's not what's going to happen at all. This kid's not ready. And now we've seen he's not ready. So that slow start by him, and I'm not even dogging Scoot because I don't know why anyone expected him to be amazing out the gate anyway. He's only 19 and didn't play that great in the G League, but it just reaffirms why Dame wanted out. Because he's like, this is a joke. They're not trying to build. They're not trying to win. They're not serious about winning, which is what they told me they were. They were serious about winning. This is not being serious about winning.
Oh, well, I agree with that. I just think I was frowning because I think the same people that thought that Dame and Scoot could win championships are the same people now that are saying that Scoot's a bust. I mean, these are just not, these are emotional people. They're not Blazer fans to the core, right? Like true Blazer fans understood why Dame wanted out. They might be mad and if you see it, people are like, Scoot's a bust. Can't play him after 12 games at 19. So I just feel they're the same people, but I think the people that'll be in the arena and the true Blazer fans will stand up and cheer for him. I mean, they'll cheer.
I agree.
For Carmelo Anthony, like he's, like they're an appreciative fans if you gave effort.
Right.
And if you don't, that's a shame. Like that doesn't say a lot for you as a fan, in my opinion. Like if you don't cheer for a returning Damian Lillard, I don't know. Look, I've been to hundreds and hundreds of Blazer games, and I'm shocked at Bonzi Wells' love. I'm shocked at the love that Rudy Fernandez gets. Like I'm just saying, like this is a franchise that once a Blazer, always a Blazer. Joe Brisbilla can walk in and it's like he's a Hall of Famer, because he gave effort. And so if you turn your back on Damian Lillard, that's to me insane because he asked for a trade after
at age 33.
After the team drafted 19-year-olds.
Drafted his replacement, right.
And didn't make the moves they said they were going to. Like, to me, that's crazy. And even if you think, again, even if you think he should have stayed and tried, whatever, man, you still have to appreciate what he did while he was here because he never didn't give maximum effort. He played hurt. He was perfect in the community. And no one's perfect, but you know what I'm saying? Like, he did everything right for the franchise and he represented you well. And he also was on those teams that sucked for a little bit and gave you the bright spot. But the reason why you didn't suck for long was because he was that good.
This is true.
Because they didn't have great talent. And he willed them to the playoffs at times because he was that good. And look, I love CJ. But without Damian Lillard, CJ hasn't been as good. He's been beat up and hurt. But everyone talks about him being borderline all-star. They haven't been talking about that the last couple seasons, So I'm just saying, like, Damian Lillard made CJ better as well. And many other players better while they were there. Speaking of other players, I got to bring it up. It's not on our list. Mo Harkless with the remix. What's that all about? Can you let me know about that? What do we know?
I don't know. I saw that. I don't think I posted on that yet. Maybe someone else did.
He's a New Yorker, so I got a little love for him.
I don't know. That's pretty wild, man.
I think he was playing in China.
I didn't know he was still playing. Was he playing in China?
Yeah, I remember looking it up, and he was on. There was some other NBA player on that team, and I was like, "Oh, that's probably a good combination," but apparently it wasn't because he's here. So, I just think that I had to bring it up. It's a New Yorker, and we shared almost a birthday. I learned that while covering him. His birthday's one day before mine. We're not the same age. I know that's shocking, but I liked Mo. I like Mo Harkless. So,
all right, that's it. We've covered it all.
Yep.
Good work.
Road games coming up. Going to be hard.
At Cleveland.
Going to be hard.
At Cleveland, at Utah, right? And then the two makeup games for the play-in tournament, and then at Clippers. Then they come home, I think, for like 6 or 7. Then they go on the road for 7. So we'll see. All right.
I'm interested in that Utah game. Sorry, I'm interested in the Utah game. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a team they can beat. I actually picked them to win the Utah game here. I was like, this is a team they can beat, and they won it.
But they got Kessler back, so that changes things.
That does. That makes things difficult for Aiden, who was killing them last 2 games. Anyway, all right. Thanks for listening to the Blazer Focus podcast. Please click the subscription button and give us a 5-star rating. We'd appreciate it. And you know what? When we come back, maybe we'll have some more victories to talk about, Craig. Some more bright. Man, that was positive. We were positive today. Positivity. All right. Thanks for listening.